Hello and welcome to another edition of the Life, Liberty, Etc. range bag. Today we're going to show you how to field strip an AR-15 rifle. This one happens to be a Bushmaster M4, so let's get started. Okay, the first thing to do, as we do with every gun, is we're going to make sure it's unloaded. First we're going to take the magazine out, push the magazine release, take the magazine out, pull back on the charging handle, and we can see there's no round in the chamber. The next step is to remove this rear retaining pin. This AR-15 has to be brand new, so this is pretty tight, and we're going to just tap it out with this pin here. And that comes right out. Then we can pull this pin out and rotate the upper receiver. Once we have the rear retaining pin out, we can pull back on the charging handle and remove the bolt. And you can remove the charging handle. Now that we have the bolt and the bolt carrier out, we can remove the firing pin retaining pin, which is right here. We can remove the firing pin. We can remove the bolt cam, which is right here. You rotate that, and then you can pull it out. And then you can remove the bolt from the carrier. Now, one last step to do on the bolt is to remove this pin which holds in the extractor, which is this piece right here. So we give this a little push to get it started, and we give it a little squeeze, and we should be able to pull this out. And that pin comes out, and the extractor comes off. And there's a little spring in here, so don't lose that. And that covers the major field stripping for an AR-15 rifle. Now we'll show you how to put it back together. Now we're ready to put the bolt back together. So we're going to put the extractor back in the bolt and then use this pin to retain it in place. So the extractor goes back in there and the pin goes in here. And you got to give it a little squeeze and wiggle it in there, and it'll go right in. Now we're ready to put the bolt back in the bolt carrier, and then we can put in the cam pin, the firing pin, and the firing pin retaining pin. One thing you want to watch is to make sure that the outside of this bolt is facing the outside of the bolt carrier. This is where the extractor is, and that's the ejector pin right there. So we're going to put the bolt back in the carrier. And then we line up this cam pin, this hole for the cam, in there. That fits in. Then that rotates 90 degrees. And then we could put in the firing pin from the back. And then the last step is to put in the firing pin retaining pin. That fits in that hole right there. And that's the bolt reassembly for the AR-15. And now we're ready to put the bolt back in the upper receiver. So the first thing to do is to put the charging handle in. There's a couple of notches up here that it drops into. Slide that forward a little bit. On the bolt, you need to make sure that the bolt is all the way forward in the carrier. So we're going to pull that forward and turn it upside down, and it drops right in. And give that a push, and that locks into place. And now the last part to reassembly is to close the upper receiver. And we're going to pop this retaining pin back in. And that finishes the reassembly of the AR-15, and then we'll do a quick function test and be all done. So once again, we'll check and make sure it's not loaded. Pull back on the charging handle. See, there's no round in the chamber. You see, here's the safety here. Take the safety off, pull the trigger and hold it down. Pull the charging handle. Check the trigger, release, and reset. That looks good. Take our finger off the trigger, pull the charging handle again, put it back on safe, check the safety. Safety looks good. This is the bolt catch here. We're going to pull back on the charging handle, push down on the bolt catch, and make sure the bolt catches. And you can see it's held open here. Push the bolt catch in on the top, and the bolt closes. And that covers a field strip of an AR-15 rifle.